Yuffie sat in a place somewhere between the cave and Wutai.
Come on, Yuri, walk! If you die, it's going to be my fault too. They'll say you died with the Midgar disease because you escaped with someone who just came back from Midgar. Me. They'll all be accusing me.
So, you dragged me all the way here because of a reason like that?
That's right.
That's not the real reason, is it?
Yuri was cut short. Panicking, Yuffie looked at him.
It's all right. He's still alive. I have to bring him back to his mother somehow.
Yuffie stood up and once again stretched out her arms around Yuri.
Shall I give you some help?
She turned around and saw Red 13.
Red?
He was displeased at the name.
Can't you call me Nanaki?
What are you doing here?
I'm on a journey to see the world. I've just started, though.
Nanaki walked on easily with Yuri on his back. He lay there, face down like some washing hung out to dry, and Yuffie had her hand on him so he wouldn't fall off. Nanaki told her how he had planned to go to Wutai as his starting point and then go east from there. He chose Wutai because it was at the borders of the western region. Yuffie told him that Wutai was at the center of the world, isolated by the seas and stretched out to the east and west. Just the kind of worldview that one would expect from someone raised in Wutai. Yuri's back was shaking. Yuffie was afraid that he was having convulsions, but when she looked at his face, he was smiling. The black liquid from his mouth had eased.
Tell me something interesting, Nanaki.
Oh yeah, I got a new mobile phone. I was told the PHS was rather dated. When I returned to Midgar with Cloud and the others, they gave me one. It should have been paid for, but the owner of the shop was giving out all the ones he could for free. He thought people would be too worried if they couldn't contact anyone during these hard times. He's a nice person.
But can you use a phone?
Of course. It takes a while, but if I can put it to the ground and use my claws, I can use it with a bit of effort.
Nanaki looked at Yuffie with a worried look on his face.
I'm not giving it to you.
Give it over!
Yuffie went round in front of Nanaki and he stopped.
It's better if I had it. Now where is it?
She was looking all around him.
You're serious, aren't you?
As Nanaki said that, Yuffie noticed a belt around his neck, hidden away by his fur. It seemed the belt was only long enough to circle around his body once. She squatted down and peeped close to Nanaki's throat. There she found what looked like a hard-wearing small pouch made from some kind of skin.
I found it.
Yuffie, I'll remember this.
Sure. Don't ever forget me.
Nanaki looked like he had given up as Yuffie stretched out her hand toward the pouch on his side.
Yuffie, I'll give you mine. I got one too, from Midgar.
What do you mean you got one too?
Well...
Blood was boiling inside Yuffie's head as she learned what happened.
You scumbag!
I'm sorry. I think I'm the one who brought the disease to Wutai. Then it immediately spread to my mother. Then from my mother to all my friends. I thought maybe we could find a cure. Let me down a moment. Thanks, Nanaki.
Together, they sat on the grassy plains as the wind blew by. Nanaki lay sprawled out as he listened to Yuri's story. Yuri had learned that his mother was ill many months ago. It was an illness that was common amongst the adults. His mother became very weak-willed and always said she was going to die soon. He wanted to help her somehow. Remembering Yuffie, who he used to play together with, he decided to do what she did and leave to find Materia. However, Yuri didn't have the courage to explore the borders for Materia and instead went to Midgar to ask for Shinra's help. It was just around the time Meteor appeared in the skies. He visited the Shinra building many times, but at the height of all the chaos there, they wouldn't listen to him. Some of the staff had pity for him, but in the end, the materia he needed wasn't for sale, because it was equipment for Shinra soldiers.
And then, that day came. I waited at a cheap hotel in the slums for a live stream to finish passing by. Everyone was taking refuge from the upper plate, but I went against the crowd and traveled upwards. There were many people who had caught the illness there.
After that, Yuri rushed back to Wutai. When his mother asked where he went, he replied that he had been having fun at the Gold Saucer.
I couldn't tell her that I tried to bring back Materia to heal her but failed.
Well, I do understand how you feel.
Of course, it was needless to say he'd become a refugee himself.
Hey, you know, Materia is also said to be the crystallization of the Ancients' knowledge. Maybe the Ancients didn't manage to heal the illness your mother has either. Maybe it never existed during the Ancients' era. So maybe there is no Materia to heal it.
Hey, Nanaki, you can't say that. Maybe we just haven't found any yet.
But think about it. If that kind of Materia really existed, there wouldn't be so many people infected. Ouch!
Yuffie pinged Nanaki's nose with her fingers. She thought he may be right, and that made her angry. Nanaki's reasoning meant there was no materia in existence to counter the disease that was making people suffer, pushing them to their deaths as black liquid flowed from their bodies.
I hate you, Nanaki.
What?
It had only been 2 days since they left Wutai, but outside the town, they saw a small hut had been built. It was small, but it had room to accommodate 10 people.
I wonder what that's for. Alright, go investigate, Nanaki!
What? Why me?
Nanaki looked at Yuffie displeased, but turned and hastily sprinted over when she pretended she was about to ping his nose again.
It must have really hurt.
Yuri seemed well other than the way he was thinking.
He might be able to heal the Midgard disease, if Nanaki and I can keep this up and make him laugh.
Not long afterwards, Nanaki returned.
4 people with the Midgard disease are gathered in there.
Yuffie and Yuri looked at each other as they heard his words.
Yuri, get on.
Without waiting for Yuri to struggle onto Nanaki's back, Yuffie ran off. As she reached the hut, she tried to find a window. When she finally found a small one, she peeked inside and saw 4 patients inside just as Nanaki arrived.
What's going on here?
I think they were forced out of the village because they have the disease.
And that's why they took the time to build a small hut like this?
She ran off, circling around the hut and found an entrance.
Wait, Yuffie!
Nanaki tried to stop her, but she completely ignored him and went inside.
This is horrible! Horrible!
Oh, it's you, Yuffie. It's been so long. But what are you angry about?
One of the patients spoke in a calm voice. She immediately knew who it was, because it sounded like Yuri's mother.
You all got forced out of the village because you're ill. That's horrible.
She understood the reasoning behind such actions, but she couldn't accept it.
But it can't be helped. The diseased have to be quarantined.
But...
That was the only word Yuffie could say.
I'm glad they made a place for me.
Yuri was putting on an act.
Are you sure? Are you really sure?
For now, I'll just have to bear with it until you find a cure, Yuffie.
What if I can't find a cure?
She just couldn't bring herself to say it.
Ah, the grave responsibility.
Yuffie spent around 2 weeks looking after the patients. The number increased even though the new patients hadn't been in contact with those that were quarantined.
It appears the disease isn't contagious. Even though a quarantine has been set up, the number of patients is still increasing. In other words, well, I'm sorry, my daughter.
Even when Godo apologized, Yuffie still didn't feel any more at ease. She didn't care about what happened anymore. She just wanted to know the cause of it all. She had forced Nanaki to leave the village, ordering him to gather information about the disease. It was possible he would get infected too if he stayed.
Hey Yuffie, there's something I noticed.
You learned something?
Yeah. The people here are those who have suffered from another kind of illness before, and those who were injured by the overflowing live stream. In other words, they're all people that think they're gonna die.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not just my imagination. It's the truth. Even I.
Yuri prevaricated.
You thought you were going to die. When?
At the cave we went to. When I was soaked by that strange water and passed out. Hey!
That water!
Perhaps the water was the cause of all this. Yuffie immediately went around asking the patients. She asked if they had drunk or were soaked in some strange water. However, in the end, a conclusion couldn't be made. Everyone noticed the water's taste had changed after the livestream erupted and passed by. They had thought nothing of it because to the people of Wutai who pumped up underground water to use, the taste always changed whenever there was an earthquake. Apart from being soaked in the livestream being the cause, they felt they couldn't eliminate the possibility that the disease was somehow linked to the water and the condition the people were in at the time. They reported their opinions to Godo. 1. Take care when using water. It isn't known if boiling the water will have any effect, but make sure you do so before use. 2. Do not think you are going to die. About a year afterwards, Yuffie kept to her routine, spending 2 weeks taking care of the patients and 2 weeks traveling to look for a cure. Taking care of the patients made her feel a rush to find a cure soon, and whenever she left the village she would be worried about them. It was what led her routine. The number of huts had increased to 2 now, and 3 children had also caught the disease. They were brothers aged 8, 6, and 4. Yuffie was surprised that children at that age were already thinking they were going to die. However, when she heard that they thought they were all going to be washed away together when they tried to rescue their older brother drowning in the river, she was confident the thoughts she and Yuri had about the disease were correct. Geostigma. That's what it was called around the world, spreading through suspicious-looking water. It enters into the bodies of those who have given up on life and are faint-hearted. Yuri's mother was gone. Even so, Yuri swore he would always smile in front of Yuffie. Almost another year had passed. As geostigma continued to spread, a cure was still yet to be found. Quite a number of people had the same opinions about the disease as Yuffie and Yuri did, but there were far more people that believed they would get infected as soon as they got in contact with the disease, and because of that, many of the unfortunate victims and their families lived in a life of despair. This increased the chances of the family members gaining the disease too as a result, giving the people the proof they needed to believe the rumors of infection. Yuffie was soon going to arrive in Corel. She noticed the sound of an explosion in the distance. She looked around to see where it came from, and soon looked up to find an enormous airship closing in. Yuffie waved.
Hey!
It was a model she had never seen before, but she was sure it was Sid's airship. She continued waving, jumping many times, but the airship flew overhead.
Hey!
She had heard Sid was building an airship. It wasn't easy using oil as a fuel instead of Mako energy, but perhaps he had solved the problem now. If she headed west from her current location, she was sure she would reach Rocket Town. She thought that maybe she should go there, but she changed her mind immediately. The airship had turned around. It was hovering in the distance so that Yuffie wouldn't get caught in the thrusters as it slowly landed.
Hey!
Yuffie ran over waving. The hatch on its body opened up, and a red beast jumped out. Nanaki started running at a powerful pace toward her. Yuffie opened up her arms as if she was ready to greet him with a hug. Nanaki jumped with all his strength, but Yuffie jumped to the side almost immediately and avoided him. Landing on the ground, Nanaki protested.
Why did you dodge?
You've grown bigger. I don't want to be slammed into.
I haven't changed that much.
Whatever. You're not cute either way.
Mean.
Hey, Yuffie!
Sid caught up with him. He looked exhausted. Or maybe he'd grown thinner.
Is that a new model?
Damn right it is. I completed it somehow. We're in the middle of a test flight.
Looks like it's going well.
You could say that. But there ain't much fuel left. Just enough to go around half the planet.
It doesn't look like it's going well.
I'm just gonna have to place my hopes on that rush-headed Barret. He's out looking for another place where there's oil. I already have all the materials and the staff ready to go when he calls, but where on the planet could he be, huh?
Contrary to what he just said, Sid's hopes seemed to be lower.
So you met Barret?
Yeah, seems he's been through quite a bit. So, you want a ride?
No.
What the hell? You still haven't cured your motion sickness yet?
Why should I get it cured? It's Yuffie's only weak point. A girl won't be loved if she has no weak points.
You ain't nothing but weaknesses, so don't you worry, Missy.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, anyway, I'm not gonna force you on, so take care on your trip.
Just as Sid was turning to return to his airship, Yuffie called out to him as if she was remembering something.
Hey, Sid.
Yeah?
There's materia that can heal geostigma, right?
Hearing those words, Nanaki looked off into the distance.
You think there is, don't you?
Of course.
Sid looked into Yuffie's eyes.
Then there is. Heh.
Yuffie began to think as she watched Sid return to his airship.
How troublesome. He knows there's no proof that any exists. But they were the words I was hoping for.
Soon the idle sound of the airship's engines changed to an explosive sound, and it was rising high into the air. Its nose turned toward the direction of Rocket Town before it dashed off, no longer visible.
I got left behind.
I'm still here.
Where are you going?
The materia cave in the north.
She couldn't tell what Nanaki was thinking from his expression, but from his downcast look, she knew there was something he wanted to say. Yuffie leapt quickly onto his back and leaned forward, stretching her arms around his neck. Letting her wrists cross over together, she gave him a tight squeeze. Nanaki's front legs gave in.
That hurt, Yuffie.
Tell me! Tell me what you're thinking!
I will. Just let go.
Yuffie loosened her hold.
I was just thinking the same thing I did before. Perhaps there is no materia that can heal geostigma.
She stayed quiet and tightened her grip again.
I said that hurts.
Geostigma hurts even more.
Yeah.
Nanaki nodded solemnly and began walking north, letting Yuffie stay on his back. As Yuffie swayed from side to side, she thought to herself,
I've become Yuri and all of the patient's hopes. By continuing my search for materia. That's why I can't quit being a materia hunter.